You ever wonder that there's too many dragons in the Court of Wyrms game?
Well, let's dive into Court of Wyrms and dragon-themed D&D campaigns, and we'll discuss it, man.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted,
And I'm Nerdarchy Steve. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds.
and it's time to ride the dragon on this topic. All right, Dave, what was the inspiration for the Court of Wyrms campaign setting?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but ways back, Nate kind of had this idea about dragons and kobolds and dragonborn, and then me and you did a video. We expounded upon it. It was like a campaign, D&D campaign ideas, and we discussed, dragonborn kobolds and dragons, and what their relationship was. So, I kind of well, what if I were to take that and kind of expand upon it? And also we run a lot of pretty kind of vanilla standard D&D campaigns, and I'm like, what could I do to make it a little bit different? And one of my thoughts was, well, what if the standard D&D races weren't really the standard races for this campaign? And so I decided to go all scaley with it. There's these rulers that are dragon emperors and dragon empresses that aren't really true dragons because they're actually more powerful than dragons. Like, in my mind, I consider them like these celestial dragons, not in the upper plane sort of way, but in this way that they're even slightly more immortal and less mortal than your typical dragon in D&D.
Definitely a lot of fun, interesting and, almost unique concepts to work with there. What was the first Court of Wyrms campaign that you ran?
So the first one wasn't actually for you guys, our home group, or even on our channel, but I ran it for Saver Dice. We were kind of in a bind and needed a filler campaign that was not a full campaign, but a half campaign. And Cody from Taking 20 is like, hey, you want to run these, next 6 sessions? How do you feel about that? And I'm like, sure. And I pitched them on the idea of this game called Court of Wyrms, and I totally ran it a bit different than we're running it in our own game. Now, one of the things when you're putting together a campaign like this and doing this kind of world building is you're going to need a way to keep track of it all, and make sure you're not losing your threads of your campaign ideas, which can be really easy to do. So that's where something like our sponsor, Campfire Technologies, can be super helpful. It's an authoring and world building platform that allows you to take your ideas and, in a very intuitive way, put them down on paper, as the case may be, or, into this website, and into the software. And, it helps you build out things like timelines, your calendars, encyclopedias, track all of your NPCs. There's just a ton of resources there to organize and make sure you're not losing any of that world building goodness, whether you're using it for your D&D game, another RPG, or you're a budding author and you want to just keep everything straight.
Having a nice tool to kind of help guide you and help you out is always a great reference. So, thank you to Campfire Technologies. You can find a link down in the description below. Check out that sponsor. You've talked about this, this campaign setting. What is the Court of Wyrms?
All right, so the Court of Wyrms is actually a specific thing in the campaign setting, right? There used to be 4 rulers, right? A dragon empress and 3 dragon emperors. And so it's it kind of references the court that they kind of make up, except for one of them tried to overthrow the other 3. They were disposed and gotten rid of. And so now the court is shrunk down to there's only 3 of them. There's other true dragons in the Court of Wyrms. But they're also kind of hidden amongst the populace, right? It's not a super common, but the Court of Wyrms is essentially these 3 ruling cities ruled by these dragon godlike beings, right? Except for now, there's also a 4th city that doesn't have one of these godlike beings. It's ruled by a council, which is made up of 5 members, 3 of which are from the other cities, and 2 of which are from that actual city. And they're kind of there to keep an eye on and make sure nothing shady kind of happens in that city. So it's the freest of actually all of the cities and probably the most kind of neutral. I gotta ask, have you played a dragon themed campaign before? Is this something you ever wanted to do? If you did, or you want to, or you have some ideas, put them down in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on it, how you've done it, how you would do it. Do you like these ideas?
And if you're looking to help out Nerdarchy, appease the YouTube algorithm, do all that, normal YouTube thing. Like, share, subscribe, click that notification bell. You know the drill.
Also, just as a quick reminder, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we throw up new videos on the YouTube channel over here. So come on by and check out what's new. So with that, Ted, what is your experience with playing in the Court of Worms setting?
So I've always dug, lizard folk, dragonborn. Literally my favorite piece of artwork, comes from, second edition. I believe the module was called Swamp Light, and it was a whole thing about lizard folk. So I'm playing in your current Court of Worms game, and I'm playing a lizard folk artificer, and I'm totally taking a different spin on, artifice as opposed to like tinkering and metal. I've gone in a direction that's more akin to what a lizard folk would do. So I'm like playing with bone and leather working and that kind of stuff. So it's been a blast. And then to have that typical D&D party kind of turned on its side, where there's like a single human and it's considered like an anomaly, and it's literally considered in the game. The human is one of the other characters' pets. He's very useful and fun, and we treat him well. But it's rather hysterical that we've got a dragonborn, a lizard folk, two Yuan-ti, and a human. And it's been a blast. We got to, well, my character's backstory. He actually got to meet one of the dragon emperors and got a blessing. Although that is one of the more evil-esque, ruthless of the dragon emperors.
Yeah, of the dragon emperors, he is definitely the shittiest of the remaining three. But hey, sometimes you take your blessings where you can get them.
Hey, I'll take it. And then we're actually running around right now in the city that doesn't have a dragon emperor, and we're kind of exploring a variety of these plot threads and seeing what can actually unravel. I dig getting into this side where you can get access to dragons and more draconic figures that are the staple of a game that's called Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and also I'm implementing some like Land of the Lost elements as well. So like in this hidden valley, there's dinosaurs. This valley's kind of magically sealed away, so you don't have a lot of things coming in and out of it. It's extraplanar travel is even much harder here than other places. Dinosaurs are kind of roaming around, and they're used as pack animals and herd animals, and it's also a possible danger that you can run into the wilds. So playing with elements of like that. The first campaign I ran, I really did like a fish out of water kind of scenario where all of the players were from someplace else, and they got pulled into the Court of Wyrms, which was kind of fun because to them, like they had no idea what was going on, anything that was going on here, and they were the first ones to hear the term hairless apes and kind of being like initially spoken down to and have to like earn the respect of their peers around them, just because the humans in this world are less civilized and they're less cultured, and they don't have as advanced of a civilization as the reptilian creatures, where here it's like, you've got grung and Yuan-ti and turtles running around, and they're kind of your normal staple, going down the street to the bazaar. You might have to watch you don't get stepped on by a triceratops that's using as a beast of burden, or maybe a velociraptor gets out of its cage and begins wreaking havoc. So you got all these kinds of things that are going on, and it's kind of changed it a little bit. We've also introduced like halfling pipeweed has been like a big thing in a lot of the games I've played in, usually introduced by the players. But in this case, it's the grungs that use what they secrete to like treat different plants and stuff to make a narcotic or a drug that others will ingest and enjoy and partake in.
I'm going to throw you on the spot here. Running this style game that has a reptilian / amphibian, not bent, but like like that's your art. That's the main staple. Do you treat any of the cultures or concepts differently versus a more mammalian campaign setting?
Yeah, like so that's the tricky part. And yeah, like I definitely try to do it. And also like I like to not only do that, but I really try and express the caste system that exists between the kobolds and the dragonborn, because in this place they all come from the same eggs, so they're much more related than they are in other campaign settings. um and like one of the secrets of the campaign that like from playing in games is like it's very rare to almost non-existent at this point for a dragon to just be born. Usually, some other creature ascends to being a dragon. And the only creature right now that we've seen that has the ability to do that are the kobolds. And then when they ascend, they go from being, the kobold in their previous life to being kind of reborn as a wormling dragon. And then they begin to their life as a dragon. I'm definitely doing a thing too where all the dragons in this world also have humanoid forms. They're all shapeshifters. And a lot of time, and that's one of the reasons why, even though it's the Court of Wyrms and there are probably a ton of dragons compared to maybe other campaigns, you won't necessarily see them running around or flying around, as the case may be. In our own game that we're playing, it was kind of like later on, several sessions it was revealed that the mentor to most of the members of the adventuring party is actually a dragon. And it's also not just any dragon, but one of these dragons that were kind of like above the mortal dragons as well. Not an emperor or empress, but possibly one that could have gone down that path. So I am having fun with trying to do that stuff, and also like trying to figure out how how these different reptilian creatures and cultures might form and interact with each other.
But that actually reminds me, you'd asked about, my experience. You ran a one shot for our group a while ago where we actually got to go through, that kind of ascension process. We were supposed to be guiding somebody, to this place, and it wound up being a totally random thing. But it was, you gave everybody the option. You can either be a dragonborn or a kobold, and we wound up, getting whatever this was to the right place. And then you had us just roll dice. And my character, who was a kobold druid, Circle of Dreams, wound up ascending to become a full dragon. I don't remember his name, but it was a one shot that we played. God, at this point in time, almost year and a half, 2 years ago, and it was just kind of cool to be able to ask, like, okay, what is your dragon? And it's like, okay, yeah, this is blast. Having lots of fun with that. So I technically had a PC who became a dragon.
Yeah, and I think like there was two dragonborn and the rest of the party all played kobolds for the most part. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. If you like this videos and videos like, you can check out the video that inspired D&D world building, Dragons, Kobolds, and Dragonborn.
If you'd like to help support us to keep making videos like this, you might want to support us over on Patreon.
As a thank you, you'll receive monthly 5e content from players and DMs alike, a chance to game with us, and more.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.